We're ready for the start. They're off.
And hello again, everybody. It's the First Call podcast on the air. Express Bet and First Bet representing Travers Weekend. Jeremy Plonk, Jeff Siegel. Jeff, some weekends we've got to kind of strum up the excitement. That is not the case this week.
Great weekend of racing, and of course, at Saratoga for Travers, and of course, several other great ones, and good racing out here at Del Mar as well. But most of the attention really will be at Saratoga. A championship should be decided in the 3-year-old division. I would think in the Travers, you've got Grade 1 races like the Sword Dancer, Personal Ensign, the Jerkins, the Forgo. But actually, the really good racing starts tonight at Charleston. What a great card they have. And including a big race there for older horses. And then, of course, Sunday continues on with a Grade 1 in the Ballerina at Saratoga. So we are loaded. Some of these races obviously going to have short prices. We know that. That's usually what happens. Mm-hmm. But there are others that really, really offer some good gambling opportunities. And we're going to try to dive in and maybe pick a few winners for you.
Yeah, let's separate the two, right? There are great betting races and there are great viewing races. And we've got a little bit of both this week. We appreciate all of you who've been listening over the last several years on our audio version of the First Call podcast. You can still get that at all of your normal podcast, iTunes, your Spreaker, all the different places that we normally have our podcast. And we're also streaming through StreamYard. And now you can catch us on YouTube, on the Twitter feeds for Express Bet and First Bet, and of course, a Horse Player Now. So a lot of different ways you can take in the podcast, either audio or during the video version. We're a little bit different than a lot of sports betting podcasts because we actually shave and shower and don't wear baseball caps on backwards during the podcast. So we're different than about 90% of the content out there. But Jeff, let's get into some handicapping this weekend. We're going to start with the Friday action at Charlestown. It's the Charlestown Classic, a $1 million race. It's race 12 of 13 on the card. Charlestown Oaks on the undercard. Several stakes races to take a look at Charlestown, but we're going to focus on the feature, race number 12 at 1 1/8. $1 million Grade 2 event here. 1 1/8 at Charlestown is around 3 turns. They'll start on the back stretch. Of course, it's about a 3/4 of a mile oval there at Charlestown, so the bull ring, as they call it. This will be a 3-turn event, a lap and a half or so. Art Collector won this race last year, goes for back-to-back. Luis Saez in to ride once again. He was aboard last year for trainer Bill Mott when they took down the Charlestown Classic. Been a lighter campaign this year for Art Collector, Jeff. Off the board in the Saudi Cup in a first only start of the spring, and then came back in August to win the Alydar nicely at Saratoga last time out. Let's start with your thoughts on the Charlestown Classic.
Well, I have a soft spot in my heart for Mind Control. He's 6 years old. He's won 10 out of 26. He's been around for a long time, and he really rose to the occasion when he won the Salvatore Mile last time out at Monmouth, stretching out to 2 turns. He's run 2 turns well. They just never give him that many opportunities to try it. But I thought he really showed some quality when he out-photoed Hot Rod Charlie. That was a legitimately good race. He earned equal the career top buyer number. And I think even though 1 1/8 and 3 turns you would think might be stretching his limit, I think he's got a chance to upset Art Collector, who is a 6-5 morning line favorite, 2-1 for Mind Control under Johnny V. And if I'm Johnny V, and I'm not telling Johnny V how to ride because I know he's run a few more than I have, but I'd love to see him put this horse on the lead. I think if you concede the lead to Art Collector, you're conceding the race. Not that Art Collector needs to be in front. He can stalk and win as he did in this race last year. But if Mind Control can get in front, he's a bulldog. And I just have a hunch that if you want to win the race, that's the way to do it. And from an inside draw with a relatively short run of the clubhouse, not the clubhouse turn, the far turn, the first turn. Yeah. I think Mind Control's got a chance to maybe control the race. So I'm going to try to beat Art Collector, who's obviously tough and fresh and still has it for Bill Mott. But I'm going to try to beat him with Mind Control. I like the horse. I like the setup. And I think he's proven now at age 6 that he's just not a one-turn horse.
If he gets the lead on the inside, as he showed at Monmouth, he's going to be tough.
A mile to go. They reach the top of the stretch, and here comes Hot Rod Charlie to the outside of Mind Control, who is a tenacious foe to the inside. Shoulder to shoulder here with a final furlong left to go, and now Hot Rod Charlie lets it out. Mind Control will not give in. Mind Control comes back. Hot Rod Charlie, Mind Control, head and head, nose and nose. Mind Control, Hot Rod Charlie, photo finish.
Jeff, we look at the big names, right? Mind Control, Art Collector. You got officiating coming in from out of town for Safi Joseph. But the local horse that's going to make his introduction to the world, the racing world, is Muad'Dib. He is the 7 horse in here for trainer Jeff Runco and Arnaldo Boca Chica rides. They are the dominant jockey-trainer combo the last decade at Charlestown. This is a West Virginia bred who has never lost. He's 10 for 10 lifetime. I'm not sure there's another horse in America who is 10 for 10 lifetime. He may be on the longest career beginning win streak of any horse in America right now. He's going to face Open Company. This is a much tougher test, but we've seen Runco. He won the first 2 editions of the Charlestown Classic with Researcher. He won with the West Virginia bred Runnin' to Love You. If there's a local who's going to win, it's Jeff Runco probably in this race taking on the outsiders. And Muad'Dib is interesting to me in here because there is a lot of speed in this race. We know that the best horses in this race all have tempo, and that's a good thing at Charlestown on the bull ring. No question about it. But if they wear each other out, I think Muad'Dib has a chance to come on and get a piece of it for the locals. It might spruce up the exactness. I think he's an underneath horse to consider here.
Could be. I mean, he's going to try. I mean, 10 for 10. He's never even remotely seen this competition.
Yeah.
West Virginia bred horses. But you have to admire a horse who finds a way. Now, on buyer numbers, he's nowhere near fast enough to win. But strange things can happen on a bull ring. And he is obviously, not only is he 10 for 10, he's 10 for 10 at Charlestown. So it'll be interesting to see if he can step up to the plate and face this legitimate grade 1 type of field after beating up on state breds. And it'll be fun to see if he can, show that he belongs. But I'm a little skeptical. But could he get a piece of the purse? Of course he could. Absolutely. And by the way, nothing wrong with finishing 3rd in $1 million race.
No, not at all. And strange things happen at Charlestown, as you say. It used to really be strange at Charlestown when shippers would come in from out of town. I remember their old Tri-State Futurity was a $75,000 race and was the big race in the 80s there. And anytime a horse came in from Maryland to try to steal the pot, as one of the Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia breds were restricted to that race, the Tri-State Futurity. Anytime one of the Maryland big horses came in from the city, something weird would happen. And I remember Little Bull John won the Tri-State Futurity one year. He would go on to become a multimillionaire and a great racehorse. His number just started blinking on the board by the time they pulled up and came back to the winner's circle. One of the great phantom disqualifications of all time. It was a little bit different time in racing back then. There's a lot more scrutiny and eyeballs on things with the simulcast audience nationally. But I'll never forget that. Little Bull John DQ'd out of the Tri-State Futurity back in the day. I think we'll see everything on the up and up, though, for the $1 million Charlestown Classic this weekend. Let's go to Saratoga for our next handicapping stop. It will be Travers Day, of course, Saturday at the Spa. And we are going to start with the Forgo is our first stakes race that we look at in race number 5. Stakes action actually gets underway in the Boston Spa in race number 4. That grade 2 stakes has 3 Chad Brown runners going in it, technical analysis, Lamista, and others. But in race number 5, we hit the grade 1s flying, Jeff. 7 furlong sprint here. And the top sprinter in the country, Jackie's Warrior, last year's champion, has done nothing wrong on the resume so far this year. Is it Jackie's Warrior and a walkover here? Or are we looking at something crazy happening?
No, I don't think we're looking at anything crazy. It would be crazy if he loses, and I'm not looking at it. Jackie's Warrior is too good, too consistent. He's won 12 out of 16. He just won the Vanderbilt, a grade 1 race, and carrying 27. Now he's dropping 3 pounds for this. That's a friendly condition book, and he continues to impress in the morning. You can see him here. He's going to work with Gunite, and Gunite's coming off a real big win himself, and this tells me that Jackie's Warrior is every bit as good now as he was prior to his last race. That's a really good horse he's working with, and you can see Jackie under a tight hold, and he's really going to work sharp. I mean, a minute and a fifth isn't blazingly fast, but obviously Jackie's Warrior could have gone so much faster. He's on the inside. Sure. He's under a stranglehold. The Gunite's actually going to be niggled at a little bit to try to get to him. He can't get to him. There's no way. And if you can toy with a horse like Gunite, as Jackie's Warrior is doing in this workout August 15th, you're telling me you're just as good, if not better, than you were when you waltzed to victory in the Vanderbilt.
Yeah, he's going to be awfully tough in here. How about an exacta? I mean, Jackie's Warrior's 5 for 5 over the track at Saratoga, but another Saratoga specialist, Baby Yoda, is 3 for 3 over the track. He's been up and down. He's been an enigma. There was, some question about how brilliant his speed figure was when he won so fast at Saratoga last year. He hasn't run back to that necessarily, but back at the Spa, he was a big winner last time out. To me, I think Baby Yoda, the one horse, is the horse for the exact. Okay. Anybody else you see maybe underneath, or are you in agreement there?
That's it. Baby Yoda. I mean, 3 for 3 is hard to ignore. He may not be a real top horse anywhere else, but at Saratoga, he is pretty darn good, and he's got the perfect style for 7 furlongs, and you would think that Jackie's Warrior will take care of anybody who even remotely tries to be close to him early. So those, and I don't even think there's that much speed in this race, so I think Baby Yoda will save ground in the second flight, and I think they'll be happy to finish second. I don't see any possible way anybody beats Jackie's Warrior unless something goes amiss with Jackie's Warrior, and I'm not expecting that to happen. But I think you're right. 3 over 1, Jackie's Warrior and Baby Yoda to me in the exacta.
I do want to mention Cody's Wish in here. He's a neck away from 6 straight wins, and that's not easy to do in any division. But, he's a miler turning back here to the sprint ranks. The mile division is probably a little softer than the sprint division. So this is a tougher spot for Cody's Wish, but there is nothing wrong with his form. And Bill Mott's got Baby Yoda. He's got Cody's Wish in here. He's got the Art Collector at Charlestown. This could be a huge weekend for William I. Mott. He is loaded this weekend for Bear. Let's turn our attention next at Saratoga to the H. Allen Jerkins. This is the 7 furlong sprint race, formerly known as the King's Bishop. Of course, King's Bishop, the horse, trained at the end of his career by Allen Jerkins. So the Allen Jerkins Memorial, named for the giant killer who took down Saratoga with Onion. They called him the chief around the racetrack. But Allen Jerkins Memorial, a race named for one of the most respected figures in the training game in the East Coast and nationally. We've got a representative field of Allen Jerkins here for this year's edition. You got Jack Christopher, who's probably the top 3-year-old sprinter in America. He gets a chance to make that case for certain on Saturday. Field in here also includes Gunite, coming off that big win in the Amsterdam last time out, in a tough finish with Accretive. So they rematch. They're the two on the outside. Gunite and Accretive were just a neck apart in the Amsterdam earlier in the meet at Saratoga, Jeff. But they get a tougher customer coming in this time. Can they handle Jack Christopher?
Jack Christopher is back what he wants to do around one turn, and he actually ran well in the Haskell. He just found a mile and 8 too far from, which we kind of suspected might be an issue. But he's back around to 7/8, and his win in the Woody Stevens, he won that race by 10, and that race, if repeated here, would win. And in watching him breeze with a nice horse named Key Point, Jack Christopher's on the outside, and he really wants to get it on here. That's not really what the plan was. Chad Brown not wanting him to go too fast. And still 59-4 is really good time on this racetrack at Saratoga. He certainly could have gone faster, but he wants to stay with his workmate Key Point, who's on the inside. And actually, Key Point works pretty well just to stay even with Jack Christopher. But Jack Christopher is just galloping along here, and he's looking like a colt that is ready to get back in action, get back going 7/8. And again, you look at this workout and you say to yourself, man, if they had turned him loose, he could have gone to 58. You don't need that, but it does tell us that Jack Christopher is back on the beam.
And this race, the H. Allen Jerkins, happens to be my race in the First Bet and Express Bet Travers Wager Guide. So we've got a group of analysts who've lined up to take on all the stakes races. We've got the artificial intelligence picks for the undercard overnight races. Eddie Olczyk for the Classic. Jeff's got the Sword Dancer. Millie with the Boston Spa. The Forgo, I believe, is Michelle Yu. And we've got the personal ensign with Zoe Cadman. So the team's all in, chiming in for the First Bet and Express Bet Wager Guide. It's a new wager guide. It's digital. Check it out. Go to news.first.com, and on the right side of the page, you'll see the wager guide links. Go check out that Travers wager guide. It's free. It's easy to navigate. You get XBTV replays in there of workouts to check out for all the races, and plenty of them for the Travers Stakes. So be sure to check that out. The H. Allen Jerkins Stakes, where Jeff and I both think Jack Christopher's the horse to beat. I'll tell you a little spoiler alert. So I want you to go to the guide and check it all out. But I've got a good feel for Actuator in this race, Jeff. I think Actuator's going to run a good race. He's coming off the Indiana Derby victory. He cuts back in trip here. The Indiana Derby runner-up has already come back to win the Smarty Jones Stakes this week. Best actor for Brad Cox. And there's a lot of speed. Conager from down on the rail, Howling Time. There's some fast horses in this race on the inside. When fast horses are down on the inside, that's going to crank up the pace, I think, in here. Gunite's got a lot of speed from the outside. Remember, he really pressed the fast pace last time in the Amsterdam when it was Pinehurst down on the rail setting the tempo. So I think they're going to go fast. Jack Christopher guts everybody and draws off and wins this thing. I think somebody comes plugging along from the back for the exacta, and that's why I've got Actuator. Johnny Velasquez riding. Congrats to him. He just picked up his 1,000th career victory at Saratoga yesterday. So Actuator paired up nicely with maybe the greatest of the greats at Saratoga, right up there with Angel Cordero, of course, John Velasquez. So I've got Jack Christopher and Actuator for me as the exact in the Jerkins. Anybody you like underneath?
I mean, I see your angle on the 12-1 shot Actuator. That is a good pick, and definitely one that would have a very good chance of picking up the pieces. So I'll use him. And Accurative on the outside, that lovely outside draw, had a really good work since his last race. He's only had the 2 starts. He's already in the triple-digit buyer range for Chad Brown. And I think he, from the outside draw, he's got that second flight, stalk, pounce and go stalk trip that I think he'll get. And I don't think he's good enough to beat Jack Christopher, but I think he's good enough to run second. Certainly third. I think you have to use him somewhere if you're playing exactas or tries.
We've got some strong type favorites on the card. Jack Christopher, one of those at the very strongest level, I think, the way he matches up with this particular race. I think he and Jackie's Warrior are probably two of the most likely winners on the entire card. Let's go to the Personal Ensign Stakes next up at Saratoga. It'll go as race number 9 in the Personal Ensign, named for the great undefeated champion, Breeders' Cup Distaff of 1988, one of the greatest races of all time, when Personal Ensign ran down Kentucky Derby winner, winning colors in the shadow of the wire, one of Tom Durkin's great calls. Personal Ensign ingrained in New York racing history as well, and at Saratoga, the race that bears her name has championship quality all over it, Jeff. Latruska, the champion older mare from the year past. You've got Malathot, who was a champion 3-year-old filly, a Kentucky Oaks winner, but nobody is better right now than Clairiere, her last 2 in the Ogden Phipps. And then in the local prep here at Saratoga in the Shoe V, really stamp her as something else. Let's go back and take a look at her Shoe V, and we'll get your thoughts on Clairiere in the Personal Ensign field.
With Crazy Beautiful on top here. Clairiere, a bit tough to handle there, looking to come through down at the rail. Here comes Clairiere up the inside. Here's Malathot on the outside as they move down for the 8th pole. It is Clairiere, Malathot, Crazy Beautiful in between those two. It is Clairiere and Malathot on the outside. It's a showdown in the Shoe V that's going to go to Clairiere, who comes through on the inside to win it under Joel Rosario.
So she beat Malathot in search results and also Latruska in the Phipps. Then she came back in the Shoe V to beat Malathot and Crazy Beautiful. She's beaten every horse in this field in her last 2 starts. What changes the forecast that Clairiere doesn't do it again?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, because these fillies, Malathot, Clairiere, Latruska, they all kind of take turns. And right now it's Clairiere's turn. She's on top of the mountain. The only reason why I'm a little bit unsure about this race is because I loved Malathot last time out. I thought she was 3-5. I wasn't the only one. Mm-hmm. She could not have gotten the better trip, and she just was never going well at all. Clairiere was down on the inside taking dirt. She got through on the inside. You watch that race, and you come to the conclusion that there is no way Malathot may ever be able to beat Clairiere with that kind of trip that she had on that day. But then Malathot comes back since then and works better than she's ever worked. Now, she worked well before, but maybe there was some issue in the Shoe that we weren't aware of. Maybe it was an issue that even Tom Pletcher might not have been aware of until after the race. But Malathot, since that, has worked like Malathot. And I could see her turning the tables on Clairiere. So, but I also could see Clairiere continue to win. I mean, they're both by Curlin, so I'm torn. You know that. And they both have the ability to be much better at 4. You might not think that Malathot has made any strides since then, and that's that's certainly possible. And then what do you do with Latruska? I mean, do you just let her stroll out in the lead and run everybody on the ground like she's been known to do? I mean, she's 2 out of 3 at Saratoga, 4 out of 6 lifetime at this 1.8 distance. She's got the rail. Unless Search Results goes after her, or I don't know whether she will. I mean, she might sit second. But if they don't respect Latruska, she's fresh. She hasn't been out since June. She can fire fresh.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her work, but she looks like she's training great at Churchill. Could you say she couldn't win? Of course not. So I don't really have a strong opinion about this race other than I really do want to watch it. It's going to be a great race.
Latruska was 75 cents on the dollar against these same horses when she backed up in the fifth. So if they've got her right, if something was just off that day, she certainly could. And again, 5-horse field, you don't expect a lot of challenges on the front end. She certainly could walk the dog in here. There'd be no question that Latruska could take this one. This is a tricky 5-horse field. It could be single Clairiere and move on. But if you get beyond Clairiere, then you say, well, Malathot could win it. Latruska could win it. Search Results might be a little bit of a stretch. I think if you get beyond Malathot, Latruska, and Clairiere, that's a lot of what ifs. I think you need a lot of things to go right. Though Search Results is certainly no slouch, a good horse, but this kind of feels like a 3-deep race to me in the pick 4s and pick 5s. Just because I just think those 3 horses are that good. And like you mentioned, the way Malathot's been working, good comments from Zoe Cadman on Malathot's as well in that wager guide. Zoe Cadman on track there all season at Saratoga, and she had the same observation you did, Jeff. Malathot's working better than we've seen Malathot work, and she's ready to run her best race. Whether or not that's good enough to beat Clairiere or run down Latruska, that's what we're going to find out. Let's go next on the card at Saratoga on Saturday from the Personal Ensign to race number 10, the Sword Dancer. This is on the turf, and this is Jeff Siegel's race that he handicapped in the wager guide that we talked about, the Travers wager guide. Jeff Siegel's got his analysis in there for the Sword Dancer with his wagering strategies and picks. And Jeff, for that Sword Dancer Stakes, race number 10 on the card, we've got a good field size here, one of the better betting races all day Saturday at Saratoga. Give us your thoughts.
It's a good race. It's very competitive. Most of these horses have won at least one big race this year. So you could certainly go back to, like, for example, at Hamo. I mean, I thought his United Nations win was really good, career top number. He's a 4-year-old colt who's only had 4 starts since being imported from France, and he was a decent sort of colt there. He's better now. I could see him at 7-2, and Red Hot Flavian Pratt riding a 4 Brown from that inside draw should save ground. So he's a major player. Gufo won this race last year, so that's good. I mean, we know he likes the course, and he puts blinkers on. I think it's worth noting that he won the Sword Dancer last year with blinkers, so he's adding that. Rosario knows him well for Christophe Clement. He's training well. Tribhuvan is always dangerous if you leave him alone on the front end, and I think he's probably going to get that kind of trip, so I couldn't throw him out. But the one that I ended up with is Broom. And Broom is a horse that ran so well in the Breeders' Cup Turf in November, beaten the half length, hit the front in the final stages and got worn down late by Yabir, but he certainly ran a winning race in victory. And of course, this year, he's done some good work as well. Jeremy is winning the Hardwick Stakes at Royal Ascot. If repeated in this spot, probably would win the race. That's why I ended up with Broom. But you go to Royal Ascot, you win the way he did, you got to respect him.
This is a race many of our American punters may not have seen, so let's go back and take a look at it. The Hardwick Stakes, featuring the shipper here, Broom.
Broom trying to keep up this relentless gather. Hurricane Lane, the all blue down the outside. outside, still with 2 lengths to bind and Solid Stone. Mostadaf, and now Broom really trying to stretch these now. These by 2 lengths from Hurricane Lane and Mostadaf. Broom continuing to pour it on. Has 3 lengths in hand over Hurricane Lane. Mostadaf down the centre, but Broom driven clear by Ryan Moore. He's 3 lengths clear in the Hardwick from Mostadaf, and Ryan Moore took this race by the scruff of the neck, and Broom will give Aidan O'Brien his 900th Group or graded success.
So Broom comes stateside again after that good second last year in the turf and following immediately after that win in the Hardwick. Jeff, we didn't even mention Rock Emperor in here. He won the local prep for this. He won the Bowling Green, and the Bowling Green's been a race that's produced a lot of success in the Sword Dancer at Saratoga. So you've got Chad Brown with Rock Emperor winning a key prep, and he's probably not going to be among the top 3 choices in this race. So it tells you we've got ourselves a really good betting race.
It really does. And Rock Emperor, he wins and then he kind of goes off form. Then he comes back and he wins and he goes off form. He wins. And he did that in the Bowling Green. So I don't know whether he's going to step up and beat this level of competition. But he's capable. I mentioned so many of these horses have won big races in the past. And I didn't even mention 15-1 on Cross Border. All he's done is won 6 out of 9 lifetime at Saratoga. So maybe he'll perk up. It's just a really good race. I fear Gufo because I think he's coming up to the race well. Tribune is always dangerous on the front end. But I mentioned Broom because Broom, half the time he doesn't come out of the gate, so you never know where he's going to be in a race. But if he actually leaves with his field, he's got enough tactical speed to lay right into the fray. It says in his last race, 2 races back when he won at Royal Ascot, prominent. He can sit second or third easily, and in a race that probably will be slowly run early from the 3-hole, he could draft in and get a great trip, but he's got to leave the gate, and you never know when he's going to do that. So it's really a good race. It's got meat to it. You're going to get a run for your money, whoever you like, because all of these horses are capable of winning a race like this on their best day.
And, of course, that race on the card is the 10th. The Travers would follow in the 11th. They're part of the final 5 on the program Saturday at Saratoga, which means they're part of the Fun in the Sun handicapping contest exclusively at expressbet.com, not on the First Bet app. Play the contest exclusively at ExpressBet. We've got Saturday's final weekend of qualifiers for the Fun in the Sun final table. Weekly and seasonal prizes on the line. The last 5 races at Saratoga, which include several of these stakes races and then 2 overnight races to close the card. Final 5 at Saratoga, first 5 at Del Mar. You make $10 win bets. It's only a $25 entry fee. And Jeff, the top 5 finishers this week will qualify for the final table, which will be a week for Saturday on September 2nd. Only 30 players playing in the final table. And that progressive jackpot that's been building up all season long is now worth more than $16,000 for the final table. So earn one of the 5 remaining spots this weekend for a 30-person handicapping tournament playing for more than $16,000 on September 2nd. It's Fun in the Sun. It's been going on 5 weeks now. This is the 6th and final qualifying week. Again, the top 5 each week comprise the 30-person final table that will come up on Saturday, September 2nd, the final weekend where both Saratoga and Del Mar are running together. Fun in the Sun. Go to expressbet.com, look at the tournament section, and get more information on that. One of 2 handicapping tournaments, too, this weekend. We've got the $1,500 Travers Day Challenge playing just Saratoga. So if you're in the more of the high roller bankroll plays, a live bankroll tournament, the $1,500 buy-in and tournament fee and live bankroll and the $1,500 Travers Challenge that Saturday. If you'd like to try to qualify for that, there's a $100 feeder tournament today on Friday at expressbet.com. Just $100 to play in that feeder tournament for the Travers Challenge. You could win a free spot into the Saturday $1,500 high roller contest. So if you're a tournament player, be sure to get involved. That brings us to our feature race on Saturday at Saratoga, the Travers Stakes. The MidSummer Derby goes as race number 11 at the Spa on Saturday. And, Jeff, the gang's mostly all here. We've got the Kentucky Derby winner, Rich Strike. In fact, the top 3 of the Kentucky Derby with Epicenter and Zandon also following along. We've got the Preakness winner, Early Voting. Now, Todd Pletcher's got a couple absentees in this race, of course. We'd love to see Mo Donegal, the Belmont winner, but he's out injured. And then we also had Todd, who looked like he might have the pick in this race. I know a horse that you liked, but unfortunately was not able to make the gate with that one either. The Dwyer winner, Jeff, 23-length Dwyer winner, and the name escapes me. How is that even possible?
Charge it.
Charge it. That's it.
Yeah, I picked him last week, and then in the original the preliminary guide, and then the day later, maybe I caused it, jinxed him or something. He came up with an abscess foot, so that's too bad. That would have been a really good. I mean, it's a great race as it is, but the championship certainly would have been on the line now. Now, Charge It can come back and get over this and maybe make the Parks race, Pennsylvania Derby, and win that, and then maybe do well on Breeders' Cup Day. Then there's a chance that maybe he could sneak in even no matter what happens here. But Jeremy, Epicenter is 7-5 on the morning line. I know you like him, and there's no reason to think that he will not run his race because he always runs his race. I mean, here's a horse in those last 4 races. 3 of them he's earned 102 Beyer numbers, and the one that he didn't earn a 102 Beyer number was the Derby, and he earned 100. So he's as genuine, as consistent as there is. Now, he hasn't made any quantum leap. I think you are going to get what you're going to get from Epicenter. The pace scenario looks rather soft, so he should get a good trip. And I know you like him, but I don't know whether you like him at 7-5, but he's certainly the one to beat, and he certainly is training well.
He is. He worked in company with Clairiere a couple weeks ago as she prepares for the personal incident. I think he's holding his form. I think he's just super consistent. And like you said, whether you look at it by the numbers, the finish positions, the running styles, that he's been able to be versatile. He doesn't have the speed he once had in his races. Now, has that speed been taken out of him, or has it just been situational? Joel Rosario has ridden him to the front, and Joel Rosario has ridden him to the back in recent starts. It'll be curious to see where Epicenter ends up in this race because, Jeff, I think, Cyberknife down on the rail maybe has to go a little bit here, but we know that early voting to the outside's probably the pace in here. He tried to wire the Wood Memorial, a race that came back strong against Mo Donegal. He went dueling up on the lead, pressing second in the Preakness, and he made the lead in the Jim Dandy and couldn't hold off Epicenter that day. So for Epicenter, like, how interested is he going to be in engaging early with early voting? I think that's kind of like one of the real points about this race with early voting towards the outside. I think he goes. Cyberknife probably goes. I don't see anybody else quick enough with them early. So could Epicenter come out of here sitting third? If he does, he's in a great spot. But I guess the Jim Dandy showed when he runs his race, it really doesn't matter where he starts.
Well, the issue I have with Epicenter, and you pointed this out, is that he looks like he's lost his tactical speed. Mm-hmm. He was 4th in his last race, but there was only 4 horses in the race. Right. And, and if it had been 8 horses in the race, he might have been 8.
I think
so. That's a little concerning. Now, that was a good work with Clairiere. So I think he's doing well, and I think he's holding his form, and I think he will run his race. But going 1.25 miles in this race, you want to be tactically placed in a race that probably will have a very modest early pace. And I'm just not sure what kind of trip I'm going to see from Epicenter if, in fact, he has lost that first step out of the gate where he doesn't get that favorable position. Yeah. This is not a 4-horse race. This is a contentious race where if he drops back, he's going to have to go by some really good horses, not just 1 or 2, but 4 or 5. Now, could he win? Of course he can win. And for the reasons that you like him, I like him too. And I like that last work. I'm going to try to beat him, though, with a horse that is listed at 9-2 in the morning line. And quite frankly, I don't think he should be 9-2. I think he should be higher. And that's Artorias. If you look at Artorias and his resume, he's got a maiden win and he's got a win in a restricted race. Not only that, but his Beyer numbers, they're getting good, but they're not there yet. Why would I take 9-2 on a horse like this? I could take 6, 7, 8-1, and maybe that's unrealistic as well. But I like this colt because he's getting better with every start for Chad Brown. His sire, Arrogate, reminds me a lot of him, where he was a late developing colt who was a 1.25 mile horse. He came and won the Travers.
Did he ever?
I mean, yeah, did he ever? Right, broke the track record. And Arterius, he's got speed. I mean, he's got not front running speed, but going 1.25 miles, he's got a chance to be sitting 3rd or 4th if they let him run out of there. And he has really worked well since that race. I wanted to see him how he was coming out of that last race and whether he was ready to make another move. I think he is. I think he's a 1.25 mile horse. The 47 Breezing Work was in company with Search Results. He is really spot on. And I just wish that the winning line maker had made him a better price. He might be right. Maybe he will be 9-2. Right. But you got Zandon at 5-1, early voting, the Preakness winner at 8-1, the Derby winner, Rich Strike is 10-1, Cyberknights at 7-2. I mean, these are all horses that could take some money. Right. But I'm going to gamble on Arturius, and maybe maybe he's good enough. And wouldn't it be funny if he won and threw his hat into the ring in terms of being a champion? Why not? It's just a great race, and I'm just going to gamble on Arturius, and hopefully I get a decent price.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the price, right? You want a little bit more, and I'm the same way with Epicenter. It's 7-5. It's not a bet for me on the nose, obviously. I mean, I don't dip below 2-1 on a win bet for me personally, but I'll use horses like that in the exotics, obviously, sure. and certainly in the multi-race bets. But I'm not super bullish on Epicenter. I just think maybe he's the safe out in here. Like you know what you're going to get from him. Like you said, he will be Epicenter on Saturday. We'll see if somebody's better than Epicenter in the Travers Stakes. Let's give a quick little nod here to Rich Strike. Jeff, what do you think we get from the Kentucky Derby winner in this spot? He's an enigma.
Yeah, I think he will run his race. I just don't know whether he has the ability to spot this field and be dead last if that's where he's going to be, and then pass them all. Now, he did in the Derby when he got a lot of help up front, and he ran great. And he's training really well. He trained really well. We didn't watch him that closely because nobody barely even heard of him. So we didn't really watch his workouts before the Derby. Right. But he's working well here. He's in 59 and change. He's going to gallop out. I'm going to draw a line through that 1.5 mile race, kind of a weird race in the Belmont where his style was never really going to work there. He tried to make a run into he's slow fractions. He just didn't have it. I think he will rebound with a big effort here, but I'm just not seeing the race shape favor his style. I'm picking a horse that I think is going to be tactical, that may not be in front, but it'll be within range. I'm looking at 47-4, 111-4, 112, 136 and change. It's going to be hard for a horse to come flying around these horses and beat them. They're just too good. So we'll see. But I think he'll run better. I just can't. He might hit the board. I'll give him that. But that's about all I can do.
Jeff's got Arturius. I've got my eye on Epicenter. We both have our eyes on the tote board, looking for a little bit better price than the early projections. Check out Eddie Olczyk's picks in the first and express bet Travers Stakes wager guide for more analysis on the big one. Next up on the podcast is the Pat O'Brien Stakes. If you watched basketball during the Bird and Magic era, you think the Pat O'Brien is named for the At the Half guy on CBS. He did all of the halftime shows. But this Pat O'Brien, Jeff Siegel, is the actor who played Newt Rockney, if you remember, in the great movie. And Ronald Reagan looked at Pat O'Brien and said, just tell the boys to win this one for the Gipper. So we're going to try to get just one for the Gipper from you in the Pat O'Brien Stakes on Saturday at Del Mar. These are top sprinters from the West Coast, but there's an interesting entrant from the East. How in the world did we get Speaker's Corner in this one?
Good point. This is just a grade 2. I know they were trying to find a grade 1 for him, and of course he won the Carter and going 7/8 of a mile. And then they decided, they being Bill Mott, decided to let's go after the big boys. Flightline, nah, not really. And then Life is Good. He ran okay about second to Life is Good, but when you knock heads with these two superstar horses, it's going to take something out of you. I know that I was a little surprised they ran him back in the neighborhood against Life is Good. I mean, there are a lot of races you can run in, Jeremy. You don't have to go looking for Life is Good. You don't have to do it, especially in a grade 2. So I'm not really sure whether Speaker's Corner is the same horse now as he was in the winter and spring, and I'm going to gamble against him. He's listed as a 6-5 morning line favorite. I've seen better 6-5s than that. I mean, especially when you kind of come over here. So I'm going to try to gamble against him. Now, what makes this race difficult for me as of this recording is that Bob Baffert's got 2 horses in here. Laurel River, who I think has a very good chance, even though he's got no chance to get into the race unless he wins the race, to win it, to be very competitive in the Breeders' Cup Mile. But he's he's never won a stakes. You can't.
Right.
I'm not even sure if he'd get in. So, and I thought actually, I was told that there was a very good possibility that Laurel River was going to be used as kind of not a rabbit, but kind of a thorn in the side of John Sadler's horse, Flightline, next week in the Pacific Classic. They were going to use him as that and set things up for Bob's other horse, but he's in this race. So if he runs here, Laurel River is no slouch. He can run. And of course, Bob's got Defunded in here, who I think might be most effective as a late running sprinter, even though he's run very well turning. He was second in the Gold Cup earlier this year, but disappointing in the San Diego. I could see him sit back and make a run. I don't know if either one or both going to run. But I can tell you who is going to run, and that is American Theorem. And this is an American Feral, a 5-year-old who was really gotten good once the barn, George Papadromo, figured out that he's a one-turn horse. He won the Triple Bend, and then I thought he had a very good chance in the Bing Crosby. He was 7-1 that day, and he ran just as well as I thought he would.
Well, you picked him that day, so those are always fun races to watch again. Let's go back and take a look at American Theorem last out.
It's American Theorem, the grey in full flight for the wire. I do believe the rider just dropped his stick, but it's not making any difference. American Theorem striding home strongly. Get Her Number is now chasing from second. American Theorem and Joe Bravo have won the Bing Crosby. Second place will go to Get Her Number.
Get Her Number back in here as well. And Get Her Number, stablemate of CZ Rocket, who was the winner of this race in 2020 for Peter Miller. So, Jeff, this is a deep race. Restrained Vengeance was third in the Dirt Mile on Breeders' Cup Day last year. This is a good bunch. The Chosen Brawn is a Calbred, but this was a horse at one point everybody thought was going to be, a really big-time player. And, of course, you mentioned a couple Baffert horses in here. A deep addition, and American Theorem is holding down the home fort, I think, off the last two. You get the Shipper Speaker's Corner. This is a great East-West matchup and one we didn't expect to see. But I guess when Speaker's Corner and Godolphin and Bill Mott were looking at the entry box to run the Forgo, they said Jackie's Warrior's in that race. Maybe we're better off shipping across the country than facing Jackie's Warrior out of our home stall. What a trifecta that would be to face Flightline, Life is Good, and Jackie's Warrior in 3 straight races. So it doesn't get easy here for Speaker's Corner, but I guess in some respect it's a little easier than running a home game against Jackie's Warrior.
Well, he's not beating Jackie's Warrior, so this is kind of where he has to be. So it's just a matter of whether he shows up with his best race and whether or not he still has it in him. I mean, there's a reason why owners and trainers, they try not to pitch their horses too high. It's because there's a price to be paid if you go after the best horses and you don't win. It takes something out of these horses. And this horse had it twice, So I don't know what to make of him. I know American Theorem is training well, and he's got 7/8 written all over him. He's run well at the distance, and he obviously likes Del Mar. Got to carry 125 pounds, though. But he just carried 24, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Just a really good race. And I think correct me if I'm wrong if you can. I believe this might be a win and you're in for the mile. And if that's the case, it's an important race because winning a race like that with those fees paid, it's worth a lot of money, not to mention what the black type will do for you. So really, really good race at Del Mar.
You talk about you rack up against really good horses over and over again and the effect that it has on them. I remember talking with Steve Asmussen one time and he quoted, I think it's kind of a racetrack backstretch Saul, not something original from him, but he said, we get paid for what we do, but we pay for what we do. Yeah. And so you can run in these big races and get paid when it works out, but you pay the price for it over time. And these horses are kind of like, they start here and then there's a little bit of a down and a down and a down sometimes when they go through the rigors of these big races. So we'll see if Speaker's Corner has a rebound in him to the winner's circle or if he pays the price for those last 2 matchups against superstars. Speaking of superstars, we've got a race on Sunday featuring last year's Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint winner, CC. It's the Ballerina Stakes, race number 9 on the card. Sunday at the Spa. And Jeff, we talk about the good races across the country on Saturday. this was not taking too many back seats. Look, last year's Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint only went with, 4 or 5 horses, and Gamine was a big favorite, and Cece took her down. I'm not so sure this isn't a better race than last year's Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. This is a good bunch. Cece, Bill Mott's got 3 in here. What a week for Bill Mott. I mean, his barn's got to be empty. They're out they're all walking right now and preparing for a race. There can't be anybody in their stalls. You got Bella Sofia trying to turn around just a wretched meet for Rudy Rodriguez. He was 2 for 70 coming into this week's racing at Saratoga, but his stable star looks to be in fine fettle. Travel Column's a good one, and Goodnight Olive is a rising star for trainer Chad Brown. This is a really good addition to the Ballerina, Jeff.
It is, and Cece, of course, has got the credentials to win. And I thought her win in the Princess Rooney was spectacular. It equaled a career top number, but she did it the proper way. And boy, did she have a ton left in the tank. And I would think that if Cece would have run back to that race in the Princess Rooney at Gulfstream back in early July, she's going to be hard to beat.
Let's go to Gulfstream and check that one out with Pete Aiello.
CC starts to hit high gear, and she's out in the center and on to take a clear lead. Spirit Wind is back to second. Make Mischief and Glass Ceiling are next, but with an 1/8 of a mile to go, she's back in South Florida and on her way back to the Breeders' Cup. Here's 2 Princess Roonies. Here's CC in front and striding clear. She won by 6.
She was 3rd in this race, Jeff, last year, the Ballerina. We know she handles Gulfstream extremely well, as Pete said in the call there. Back-to-back wins in the Princess Rooney, that grade 2 sprint. She ran well last year in her Saratoga debut, beating only a couple lengths by Gamine when she ran 3rd. No thoughts or issues with the track, I wouldn't think.
Well, yes, technically, I mean, if you look at the form, you would come to that conclusion. And you may very well be right, because when you consider who she was running with and the 98 buyer number that she earned when she was 3rd in the Ballerina last year with what she was earning there. But I thought she ran below form, so that's my only concern, is maybe she didn't quite run as well at Saratoga last year following her Ballerina win and that I thought. So hopefully she can leave that form behind. And I think she can, based on this recent work at Del Mar, 59-3. She's inside of an older horse, Chargers Drop, who's not a stake horse or anything like that, but he's a decent sort of hard-knocking horse. Mm-hmm. And the way CC is just kind of going to be toying with him here, she's on the inside. Looks like maybe she's getting a little outrun. Not really, because she's just kind of coasting along, and Jock Terpstra just a little bit at the furlong pole, and she's going to lengthen out really nicely. And even though she's never really being asked at any stage, she's just kind of breezing along. Still a good work, good time, and that tells me that CC is spot on. And again, my only concern is that she didn't quite run as well in the Ballerina last year at Saratoga, which was her only start at Saratoga, that I thought. But maybe this is an easier field. I don't know if it is or not. But I'm just hopeful that CC can win this race, and because based on the way she's working, she's certainly everybody as good as she was last year when she won the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint.
And what do you make of Goodnight Olive? She's won 4 in a row. She's a length and a half away from being undefeated. You like Chad Brown with the class riser and the Travers with Artorias. Not everything is scenario-based. Races are races, and you handicap differently. But Goodnight Olive has a little bit of that same profile of Artorias in that she's an up-and-comer, and this is her splash race to see where she belongs.
Love the draw outside. She's coming back in 3 weeks, but she's never really been tested yet. This is a considerable step up in class, and we'll see if she's up to it. The last time she ran, they didn't even clock the race, so who knows how fast she ran. No buyer number, no time, but she did it the right way, and she's got that perfect style for 7 furlongs. But having said that, there are some salty professional racehorses in here. I mean, Lady Rocket is back in winning form. Obligatory has got, she's always tough and always a late threat. And Caramel Swirl is freshened since May, but she's got rising numbers and a perfect 1-for-1 at the Saratoga. So, I mean, I'm going to go with the proven element here in CC, but I can tell you, CC better bring her A game, because there are a number of fillies in here that are capable of running with her and beating her if she doesn't.
Be sure to check out all the workouts at XBTV, see how these fillies are training going into the Ballerina, and all the workers going towards this weekend's big cards at certainly at Saratoga for Travers Day Saturday, and around the country with the big races at Del Mar as well. The Rancho Bernardo will be Sunday in the Filly Mare Sprint division as well at Del Mar. review the races we went over on the podcast at Charlestown on Friday night. It's the Charlestown Classic, and Jeff's looking for mind control in that one. $10 money back special when you bet any of the races Friday night at Charlestown in the Charlestown Classic card. Full card, $10 money back special. That means if your win bets finish second or third, you get up to $10 back. If you bet 50 on them to win, you'll get 10 back. If you bet 8 on them, you'll get 8 back, but up to $10 money back special if your win bets finish second or third. That's on the entire card tonight, Friday night at Charlestown. Saturday's action at Saratoga included the Forgo, the Jerkins, the Personal Ensign, the Sword Dancer, and the Travers that we reviewed. There's $25,000 in hit and split promotions on pick 4s and pick 5s throughout the card when you bet with First Bet and Express Bet. That means if you take down a pick 4 or a pick 5, there's a good chance not only will you get the pari-mutuel money, you'll split your share of up to $25,000 in hit and split promotions on the various bets throughout the course of the day at Saratoga. And, of course, Saturday at Saratoga, want to remind you, it's the final weekend for Fun in the Sun, the handicapping contest. Last 5 races on the card at Saratoga. First 5 races on the card at Del Mar are the Fun in the Sun qualifying races. Again, you play this week for weekly prizes. The top 5 this week will qualify for next Saturday's final table with more than $16,000 already in the progressive jackpot to be played for next week. And only 30 players will be involved in that tournament next week. Try to get one of those final 5 spots this weekend. And if you want to play the bigger, higher roller tournaments, we've got a $1,500 live money contest, the Travers Day Challenge at expressbet.com on Saturday as well. And we've got the Pat O'Brien at Del Mar that we took a look at, where American Theorem's going to try to pay Jeff for the second time this summer. 7-1 last time. We'll see what kind of price American Theorem offers in that head-to-head matchup with Speaker's Corner. And then the Ballerina with CC, the defending Sprint Filly and Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint champion. She's back in action. Be sure to go and download the wager guide for Travers Day. Full card picks from the First Bet Artificial Intelligence. You've got 6 handicappers taking on the 6 graded stakes races with Eddie Olczyk capping it off in the Travers Stakes. Jeff's got his analysis in there, the Sword Dancer. I'm involved with the H. Allen Jerkins, and folks across XBTV and our racetrack properties all contributing their picks and analysis in the Express Bet Wager Guide. Go download it. Go to news.first.com. And you look on the right-hand column, you'll see the big link right there for the wager guide. Click it and navigate through it, Jeff. It's a digital format now. It's much easier than the old PDF file where you're pinching and pulling on your devices to try to see the print bigger. It's intuitive. It's interactive. There's a lot of great pieces to it. We're really proud of it, and looking to launch a bigger and better version of it for Breeders' Cup coming in the fall. So that wager guide, what do they say? A labor of love.
Yeah.
It's year doing guides.
It's fantastic. It really is. It came out looking great. There's so much information there, and it's easy to access. And it's the start of something really special that we'll be doing later on, obviously, this year in the Breeders' Cup, and then from years to come. And we'll be adding elements and tweaking it, but it's really easy to access. And again, the information is invaluable. So check it out and be prepared for Travers Day.
And wager guide credit due Nate Harvey and Jason Allen, our web and our graphics people who put that together. Had a hand in the content end of it, but they are who made it look as good as it does and sing and navigate the way that it does. Any suggestions you have to make those kind of wager guides and things better, be sure to follow us on Twitter, First Bet, Express Bet. Send along your thoughts and feedbacks on those guides. They're for you. We want you to be more confident when you play the big races. And when you play them, be sure to play them with Express Bet and First Bet. That's going to wrap up our Travers Weekend preview here on the First Call podcast. We'll be back on Tuesday on It's Official, where Jeff and I take on 5 topics each week. And I got a funny feeling a lot of the topics are going to surround Travers and what goes on at Saratoga this weekend. So on behalf of Jeff Siegel and everybody with First Technologies, have a great week. We'll talk to you on Tuesday on It's Official.